Hi and welcome back to Love English. So today I want to share what I think are 10 of the most common mistakes, errors, faux pas that people make when sending emails. Now this could be in a professional context or just in day-to-day writing of emails. I have certainly, I've experienced this. I think when it comes to writing emails as an English teacher, I'm pretty strict, and certainly number 10 is the thing that I always do to avoid any of these mistakes or errors. So let's take a look at 10 common email mistakes. I would love to hear some of your feedback, some of your stories. Perhaps you've experienced this with other people, or maybe you've made a particularly embarrassing email mistake. I've got one rather humorous one to share with you in just a moment. And yeah, do share, comment below and let me know, what mistakes have you made when writing emails? Now, if you are interested in improving your English when it comes to writing emails, you can find our course online. If you go to www.loveenglish.co.uk, you can search for our online courses there, or you can click the link below and go directly to the Advanced English Academy with Love English, me and Sabrah, and you can find our most recent course, the Professional English Course and Career Development, or it might be the other way around. But either way, the course is designed to help you in the workplace and to achieve your English language goals and get a better job. Perhaps get a promotion or apply for another job entirely. It's there to help you improve your language, your writing, your communication skills, and your ability to sell yourself. Yes, the ability to perform really well in job interviews, to create a great LinkedIn profile and a perfect CV so that you stand out from the crowd. So do check out our course there, and if you sign up to our weekly newsletter, again you can sign up via our website www.loveenglish.co.uk. You will get notifications of discounts on our courses. There is currently a promotion this month, but it's only for those that are subscribed to our newsletter. The rest of you will have to wait. So let's get on with the lesson. 10 email mistakes that people often make and really shouldn't make. Okay, number 1, using vague subject lines, or worse, no subject line at all, leaving the subject blank. That drives me crazy. I've had a lot of students do that to me before, but keeping it vague, using hello or meeting or, I don't know, problem, it's too vague. Someone, it might just miss it in their inbox. They might think it's not relevant, not necessary to read, so they don't read it. So making sure that you put problem with a July report, or meeting agenda for Wednesday the 25th. Whatever it might be, specify. Don't obviously go into too much detail. That's what the email is for, but make sure that your topic is very clear, your subject. So it's a simple one, but it's an essential one, and one that will hopefully make sure that your email gets noticed. Number 2, greetings and sign-offs. You don't want to make a mistake here. It could affect the tone, the level of formality of the email, and really it just sets the wrong image. It creates the wrong impression of you if you get this wrong. So in terms of getting the greetings wrong, it might be that you write something too informal. So if you're writing to somebody that you don't know, do not write hi. Use their name, usually I would say Mr. or Mrs. or Ms, dear sir, madam, or even if you're not sure who you're writing to at all, to whom it may concern. Gender neutral, perfect. It just addresses the person if you don't know them. If you do know them, depending on how comfortable you are, how well acquainted you are with them, you might want to use their first name or their second name if it's in more of a formal situation. So the mistake here could be something like, hi Sarah, fine. Hi Mrs. Jones, no, that doesn't work, because when you refer to somebody by their surname, then it's more formal. So you need a more formal greeting like dear, okay? So dear Mrs. Jones, but hi Sarah, as an example. And of course, if you want to use hey, that's really informal. I would say I generally would avoid using hey unless it's a friend. So I would stick with hi or dear. You could even use dear Sarah, dear Sally, dear John. That's a level of formality that's not too much, but still kind of friendly, inviting. So there's the balance between the two. Now, in letter writing, if you know the person you're writing to, you would use the sign off yours sincerely, okay? Often in emails, you'll see sincerely rather than yours sincerely, which is perfectly acceptable. But this is when you know the person. That's right. Sometimes it gets a bit confusing. If you don't know the person, you might want to use faithfully. So to whom it may concern, dear sir, etc. If you don't know the person, you're not addressing them by name, then you can use faithfully. And again, in emails, you usually omit yours and just put faithfully or sincerely. Be careful when it comes to sign-offs, because you don't want to make them too informal. You can write best regards, more formal. You could write best. You could put BW. My boss used to do this. She was quite informal, but that was fine in that situation, meaning best wishes. Choose your sign-off carefully, and of course always put your name at the end and how you expect them to address you. If I'm writing to somebody who, for example, my letting agent, if I want to show myself as being a bit more assertive, I might put Ms. Walters, okay? I don't use Mrs. I'm married, but I don't use it just because I don't like using a title that signifies my marital status. That's a bit political. But yes, I would put Ms. Walters if I wanted someone to take me more seriously. But there's lots of greetings. Here's just a few. You could also use BR, best regards, like best wishes, so abbreviating those words. Again, the more you do this, the more informal it sounds. Cheers is another one that I might use if really informal. If there's been lots of emails going back and forth and you've developed a rapport with the person, then you may want to be that informal. Connected to greetings, getting the recipient's name wrong. Now, hopefully no one will get the name completely wrong. You know who you're responding to. I always check the email sign off that I'm replying to check 1, the name, 2, how to spell it, and 3, how they've referred to themselves. Have they used their surname or have they used their name? Sometimes with email signatures, they might have their full name, but in the sign off, they just write their first name. So depending on how they've signed off is how I will address them. So hopefully that helps you a bit there. Just make sure that you get the spelling right. I think it's a real sign that you haven't paid much attention to their email if you don't spell their name correctly. It just comes across as a bit rude and inconsiderate. So I think with emails, it's really important that you pay attention to those little details, particularly where there's names like John that could have multiple ways to spell. So it could be Jon, could be John, could be Jonathan, could be Jay, you know what I mean. You know, these are names where you could spell it in different ways. So just be careful and have some consideration. Number 3, don't waffle. Don't leave the best or the most important information till last. Background information can be left to the end. Get right to the point. The title, the subject line of the email should be direct, and so should the beginning of the email. People don't want to read really long emails. Hopefully it's not more than 2 or 3 paragraphs, and those paragraphs should be relatively short and succinct, concise. So keep to the point of the email. If you need to give further details, leave them to the end. Not everybody has the time to read emails in detail and to the end. So just bear that in mind when you are writing. Not striking the right tone. Now, when it comes to writing of any sort, obviously you're missing a lot of information. You're missing the tone of voice that you could normally read a person with. You're missing any kind of emphasis. You're missing facial expressions. So whether it's a text or an email, crafting it well and thinking about how it's going to be received is really important. And this is where tone comes in. In business emails, things like emojis, Oh, capital letters. Capital letters mean you're shouting, basically. So I really, really hate capital letters. Exclamation marks and other forms of punctuation. These can come across as not only rude or too informal, but even aggressive when you're talking about professional business emails. So best leave those things to text messages and when communicating with friends. And definitely leave out any kind of vulgar acronyms like WTH, or indeed acronyms in general, I think are not appropriate for business emails. So think carefully about who you're writing to and the level of formality. And even if it doesn't have to be particularly formal, I think it's just more polite to keep to these, well, to these guidelines. I wouldn't use anything too informal that could just send the wrong message to somebody and might mean that they don't take you as seriously. So bear that in mind. Number 5, fonts and layout. Now, when it comes to emails, I think it's really important to space things out, okay? You're reading it on a screen, but it could also be on your phone. So someone doesn't want to be reading a lot of text that's really close together. Paragraphing, leaving spaces between paragraphs, essential. And not just that, choosing a simple, clear font that can be read and keeping to one font. Otherwise, it just looks messy and unprofessional. Consistency is key when it comes to writing professional emails. I usually stick with Arial as a font, or even Comic Sans, which is a bit more an even Comic Sans, which is very clear to read and a little bit more informal. So a bit friendlier, warmer, but I would say Arial is probably the best. Black, and avoid lots of colour. You might want to put something in bold that needs to be clearer or underlined, but avoid lots of colour. It just looks a bit messy and unnecessary. Okay, number 6. Now, Sabrah will agree with me on this. Sending angry emails. Thankfully, Sabrah is the cool-headed one when it comes to us, and having a business partner like her is very useful because I can get annoyed quite easily with people. People when they don't do what they say they're going to do, people who I think have been rude or unprofessional. It gets my back up, meaning it makes me a bit angry, and I am always very quick to start typing an angry response. Thankfully, I can't send lots of emails out without my business partner just checking and seeing if she needs to add something. So on a few occasions, Sabrah has been particularly instrumental in calming me down and making sure that I write things a bit more clearly and professionally and tone my email down. You need to be assertive sometimes. Sometimes you need to tell someone that when they've done something wrong, but often keeping your cool, particularly when you're writing, is essential. And it does mean actually that you don't aggravate the person, that you don't create a situation where no one wants to help you. I would highly recommend, when you are frustrated by somebody, when you are annoyed, when you have been treated maybe badly, maybe the service you've been provided has not been good enough, take a step back. Go have a cup of tea or half a glass of wine, whatever it might be that helps you calm down, and go back to that email later. And even, like me, get your business partner or a friend or your husband or your wife or whatever to have a look at it and see if it does sound too angry more than it should, rather than just assertive and firm, which is a completely different thing. Number 7, on the same note, passive-aggressive phrases. Now, what are passive-aggressive phrases? Well, they're phrases that are written in a formal, more professional English language tone, but they essentially have a slightly different meaning because they're angry, they're passive aggressive, okay? So for example, correct me if I'm wrong, meaning I know I'm right and you're wrong. I'm a little bit concerned, meaning I'm angry, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated. Oh, I don't like this one in any shape or form. With the greatest respect. This is a nice way of saying you're wrong, I don't agree with you, or even I was a bit disappointed, meaning I'm annoyed with you. These are passive-aggressive phrases that you're going to get the wrong reaction from the recipient. You don't want to infuriate someone when actually you may need to work with them on something to achieve what you need to achieve. So be careful with the language and the tone of the email that you create by using passive aggressive phrases. They're not a good way to communicate with someone in any shape or form, but particularly I think when it comes to writing, because when something is written, I could interpret a phrase like that as being really aggressive, or I might completely miss it. So it could be interpreted, depending on the person, in completely different ways. So think very carefully about the language you use. When it comes to email writing, sharing is not caring, okay? This is a little bit like making sure you put the most important information at the top of the email, that you keep it concise. But equally so, you don't want to digress. You don't want to talk too much about something that isn't, well, important to the person that's receiving the email or relevant. So make sure that you aren't telling your boss the details of where you're staying for your business trip unless they specifically asked for it and there's a reason for you giving this information. So sharing is not caring. Don't give too much information in the email, and also it can be really boring to read for somebody. Number 9, it's super easy to make the mistake of replying to all. You need to be careful who you copy into the email. Certainly, if you copy in your boss, there's usually a reason why. They don't want to be bombarded with lots of emails that aren't relevant to them. If you're doing this in a situation where you're copying in someone else's boss, it might be because you're trying to say, hey, not happy with this person, something needs to be done. I've done this before. But think very carefully about who you copy in and if they need to be copied into the email. There's nothing more infuriating and irritating than one person in the office sending the same email to everybody all of the time. It's just not necessary. And it might also mean that people don't take you seriously. If there's constantly emails coming through from you that aren't relevant to them, one day they'll get an email from you that is relevant to them, but they won't open it because they think it's not. So be careful who you copy in. Number 10. So simple, so basic, but something I do very carefully all the time. And I even ask Sabrah to check my emails for me, and that's proofreading. That is going through the email once, twice before you send it. A little funny story. A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, told me this story a long time ago. She was writing to her boss, and as well, she copied other people in, and she referred to the annual report as the anal report. Thankfully, she worked in a very friendly, humorous office, and so no one took offence to that, and it was just, well, it was a funny thing, a mistake that she made. But still, it highlights the importance of reading through. I use Grammarly. Even now, it's great. It highlights issues, minor spelling mistakes, etc., even grammar points. So use a piece of software like that to help you check your emails. And if it is super, super important, get someone else to check it. Ask a colleague, ask a friend, whoever it might be. Just make sure that you check before you send. And there we have it. If you think I have missed out a tip and you would like to share one, comment below. If you've got any humorous stories of a time you have made an email mistake, then share below. And of course, don't forget, if you would like more support and help in improving your email writing and more in the workplace, then do check out our course in the link below. The Advanced English Academy is going to help you, I'm sure, in the workplace when it comes to improving your confidence and your English. So check that out. And the newsletter, click the link, go through, add your email. You get a free, what Sabrah provided, a free copy of an ebook, and you will be getting the PDF to this lesson as well. I look forward to seeing you very soon with more lessons.